I was drafted. I kept putting it off, and people was volunteering, my good friends and all, and I thought the war would cease, and so I just kept holding on, and finally I got my greeting letter from Uncle Sam and got drafted into service, and I had 30 days to break up housekeeping, back up, and enter into the service. We captured a German division, and the German general escaped. And they put out an order, anybody finding him would have 3 weeks in the state furlough. So we started looking for him, and I confiscated a motorcycle. Never had ridden one before. And the controls on it are right reverse from the American. But anyway, I got on that booger, and Larson was with me, and we was looking and spent the day, and we had found some snops and some vino and some other stuff, and the time we got back that night, we was feeling pretty good. So I said, Larson, how you stop this thing? And he put his foot down trying to drag, and I was trying to shut it down, but it was speeding up. And I looked, and a big haystack stacked in front of us in the square of the town was in, a little town. I said, well, one way to stop it is run in that haystack. So I run in that haystack, and it stopped us all right, threw us off of it, set the haystack on the fire. We like lost the town, but anyway, we stopped the motorcycle. So while I was in Gastine Valley, well, I played poker for pastime and along with the guys, and I was drawing $9.90 a month payroll, and the rest of it was going home. And I was in debt to just about everybody in the aid station, owing them for playing poker. So I had the ambulance driver from the 122nd Medical Battalion that was our ambulance driver, and Pasquale. And he said, Sarge, let's go to Vienna. I said, oh, we can't go down there. He said, oh yeah, I've got the orders cut right here. And I've got the gasoline saved up. So we took off and went down to Vienna. And here's a picture of the ambulance we were in, and showing one of the buildings there in Austria, Vienna there. And I had carried some cigarettes, cartons of cigarettes with me, because I smoked cigars, and I saved my cigarettes and would swap them out to the guys for cigars. And so I was told that I could sell them down there. And so in a little bit, a guy come along, and he offered to buy my cigarettes, and I was kind of afraid to sell them to him. I was afraid it was somebody put out there to try to catch somebody, but I finally consented, and I got $100 a carton for the cigarettes. So I went back and paid off my gambling debts and made it fair, square with everybody. But it's amazing all the stuff that people learn over there. And Colonel Benson and Captain Moe, the adjutant, was sitting at a table, and so he rapped the table and for attention and quietness, and said, I understand a little hanky-panky going on, and I'm going to get to the bottom of it and find out who's the instigator of it, and I'm court-martial everyone is involved in it. And you could hear the pin drop. There wasn't no one saying anything or nothing. And finally one guy had the second Louis bars on, and he said, Colonel, if I may. He said, Colonel said, go ahead. He said, Colonel, day before yesterday I was a buck private. Today I'm a battlefield commissioned officer, 2nd Louis. We left a lot of good buddies out there, and due to the fact we didn't have ammunition. But we got ammunition now, and we'll go back into battle. we feel like we can protect one another. But Colonel, I am not threatening you or anything of the kind, but I'd like to say one of these bullets just might have the Colonel's name on it. The adjutant and the Colonel looked at one another, and the adjutant picked up the gavel and hit the desk and said, "Dismissed," and we never heard no more from it. Then all of a sudden, we heard over the loudspeaker, we have 5 minutes to surrender. And looked, and we were surrounded by Germans, and so there was a guy up above us on another floor come running down the stairs in this apartment-like house building we were in, and I asked him, I said, "George, where you think you're going?" He said, "Radio will not get out. I've got to take the radio out of the Jeep." And I said, "Well, you need some help." So some of us medics went out there and helped him take the battery out and the antenna and the radio out of the Jeep, and we carried it back up to the top floor and got out on the roof. And he set it up and tried it out, and he came in and said, "Hello, Fury Red, this is Fuzzy Red. Come in, Fury Red." And finally he got Fury Red, and he gave him a position and all, and he said, "Lob on over for trial." So a shell came over and thought it was going to suck us off the roof of that house. But anyway, it landed just about a block from us. And so he got back on the phone and he said, "You have the target, send the kitchen sink. But I repeat, do not lower the elevation. Repeat again, do not lower elevation." And for the next 30 or 40 minutes or longer, all we could hear was boom, 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 and they were shelling, artillery was coming in, and they practically demolished the town of Würzburg. And when it was all said and done, the guys was looking around and plundering to see if there's any survivors or whatever, and they run across some champagne. And I had one guy in my aid station by the name of Larson from Tennessee, and he said, "Hey, Sarge, I found a guitar." I said, "Well, what about it?" And he said, "Man, we're going to have some good old playing and singing." And I said, "Are you a guitar player?" He said, "I sure am, Sarge." But he said, "I need some more strings. I hadn't got but one string on this guitar." So we scratched around, finally found some, and he strung it up. And in the meantime, Peterson come in with his champagne, and we finally found where Peterson had gotten it, this cellar of it, and we carried some back in little old wooden boxes and to the aid station, and sit there all night long singing old songs of all kinds, drinking champagne, and in the process our little boxes had collapsed on us. We were sitting on the floor the next morning, but you had to have times like that to get your mind off of what was going on, or otherwise you'd go crazy.